Hi everybody. Am I audible? I hope I am. I am Neena Thomas, fashion faculty and R&D head at Hamstech. So I believe all of you who are here today, you definitely love clothes and have a passion for clothes. So are you wondering what can you do with your fashion degree if you pursue so? Let's find it. This is the reason I'm here. I'm going to explain about different careers that you can do after you finish your fashion degree or get to know your future in fashion. Now, fashion designer. Fashion designer is a term that all of you might have come across. All of you might have heard about because it's a very popular career. Now, what do fashion designers do? Fashion designers come up with ideas for fashion products. And what are fashion products? It can be a gown, it can be a dress, it can be a denim, it can be a t-shirt, it can be a kurta, it can be anything which is related to garment. They just don't come up with ideas. They come up with really creative ideas. They sketch it down because they need to communicate to others their idea. They then coordinate with pattern makers and garment makers to create this beautiful garment, which they had it in their mind. Look simple? No. You need to have fashion studies. You need to have creativity. You need to know technicalities in fashion. You have to have fashion studies in short. Where can they be placed? Now, most of the freshers out of fashion design course, they get placed under famous fashion designers or designers. Some of the famous fashion designers in India are Manish Malhotra, Sabyasachi Mukherjee, Tarun Tahiliani. Now, there is also a position called in-house designers. You may be knowing about brands like Shopper Stop, Westside, Pantaloons. Now, all these brands have sub-brands basically. Now for these sub-brands, who designs them all? They cannot just take ideas from Google or from any other design house. They need to have their own design team. That's where most of these designer students can be placed. If you see Shopper Stop or any other brands, basically, they're all fast fashion. Fashion changes according to season. That means what? You need to have a huge design team in house, and that is a huge opportunity for the design students. Now, there are sectors like menswear and kidswear. And these sectors, unlike the women's wear, they're not explored so much. They still have a lot of options for new designs to come, new trends to come, new innovations to come. So this is also some field that some of the young, very creative men can explore and create wonders and become really like become a new trend altogether. Last in fashion designing, which is costume designing, which is also one of the most interesting. I really like it because you really get to work with movies and movie stars. So fashion designers in movies, Bollywood or Tollywood or Hollywood, whatever it is, like generally they're called costume designers, and they design for characters in the movies. Very, very few movies, I mean, hardly anything. Most of the movies do not get their garments or their costumes from shops, stores, or retail outlets. They have their own design team called the costume design team who designs for these characters. Now, when I talk about this, I'm really proud to say or talk about Miss Neeta Lulla, who is a famous fashion designer, costume designer, who's worked with Bollywood movies like Panipat, Manikarnika, Rudramma Devi in Tollywood, basically. And why am I so proud? Because she's been associated with Hamstech for last 20 years, and so many of our students interned with her for movies or for her fashion house. Okay, let's move ahead. Let's see what is our association, Hamstech's association. Now, Hamstech is associated with many fashion, most of the fashion big names in Hyderabad. Some of the big names that we are associated with are Satyapal Studio, Singanias, Eternal Libas, Manumai Handloom, Vanilla Rachel Boutique, My Perfect Fit, Style Mandra, The Sea Factory, and many, many more. But we are associated with major fashion houses in Hyderabad. Now, fashion entrepreneur. In my teaching career, I have noticed that so many of the students come and tell me that they want to finish their fashion designing course and become, they want to start their own fashion label or fashion boutique. Who doesn't want? Who doesn't want to start their own label or start their own business? I think it is a dream that all of us nurture in our heart. So that's exactly what you can do also. You can finish your fashion designing. You know the technicalities about fashion, but along with that, you do have leadership quality, determination, passion, management skills, and risk taking ability. Then go ahead, start your own, finish your fashion designing course, and start your own label. But then there's one tip I would like to tell you is that before you fly solo, make sure that you have some work experience. But this is something that I feel, like when I think about, I'm very privileged to be in the fashion field, because if you're in the fashion field, it's much easier to start your own boutique or a fashion label than any other fields. So this is something, if you have all these skills with you. Now, a famous French fashion designer, Yves Saint Laurent, said, "Fashion fades, but style is eternal." Take a look at these. Both the sketched figures are wearing similar t-shirt, but paired with two different bottoms. One is paired with denim, jeans, and a tight hugging long sleeved t-shirt with sneakers to give more like a street style. The other one is paired with a skirt. So this gives more like casual but at the same time elegant. I can tell you is I can tell you is fashion styling is one of the most upcoming fashion careers. And unlike the fashion designers, they do not create garments, but they create fashion look altogether. Like just like how I've told you right now. Now, where can they be placed? If you look at any star, say for example Deepika Padukone or Sonam Kapoor, the moment they step out, they look $1 million. And it's just not the attire. It's their makeup, it's their hair, it's their accessory, it's their handbag, it's their footwear. It's that complete total look. In short, they all have a stylist, a fashion stylist there. Now, other places that you can work is print media, something like magazines or advertisements. Let me take an example of a sari store who is doing a photo shoot of a sari. This sketch, which is probably done by a stylist. Okay, now sari can be provided by the sari store, but take a look how it is being styled. The sari is being styled with the long jacket or the long blouse. It's styled with a belt. It's styled with the brooches there. It could have been probably two saris, one yellow one or a white one. What I want to tell you is that all these photo shoots, advertisements, when models are being photo shooted, what's happening is there is a huge role of fashion stylists there. All these places have a huge role of fashion stylists because the mood, even the background can be actually designed and styled by the stylist. In short, the whole mood of the picture is being brought up together by the stylist and the photographer. Some of the famous magazines around the world are Vogue, Elle, Harper's Bazaar. But in Hyderabad, there are lifestyle magazines like Tulip, Wow, You and Me, who uses fashion stylist. Okay. Now, along with that, you stylists are required in movies. Movies, like I told you, have a complete unit called the costume designing unit. And now these days, most of these costume designing unit or designing department has a fashion stylist also. Some of the famous fashion stylists in Bollywood or across India are Anaita Sharoof, Riya Kapoor, Tanya Gowri, Natasha. All these people have styled celebrities or worked with movies. So this is fashion styling is an upcoming career that all of you can look forward for. In my teaching career, I've come across many students who are extremely talented in sketching. Now, those who love sketching, you have a career for you, that is fashion illustrator. Now, what they do is they illustrate or sketch these beautiful designs. I have seen people who really sketch well or talented in doing this. They are more inclined towards sketching or illustrating than the whole design process altogether. They may not be very keen to become fashion designers. Now, just to become a fashion illustrator, this kind of a job role is more in abroad countries. But luckily, today what's happening is so many of the fashion designers or famous fashion designers, they come up with design ideas, collections, but along with that, it gets a little difficult for them to sit and sketch. Sketching, when I'm talking about sketching or illustrating, it can be done manually by hand or on computer. It's very difficult for them to sit and sketch because they have to take care of the business. They have to take care of the people around them. They have to actually visit fashion shows. They have to visit countries to see what's happening in trend in those countries. So most of these jobs are being carried across by fashion illustrators. Designers convey their ideas to these illustrators, and they come up with the design sketch so that designers can have a complete look and communicate with other people also. So this is something that all those people who really like sketching and illustrating definitely need to have fashion studies, because you need to know the technicalities of human body and how different fabric look on human body. So this also requires a fashion study, even if you're very talented into it. And you also need to understand how each fabric feel into it. But then you have a happy news that you do have this kind of job roles in India as well. I've realized that you like fashion. You have a passion for fashion. At the same time, you're very good with the management skills. Then you have these wonderful careers open for you in retail and export business. Let's see one job role in retail, that is fashion buyer or a merchandiser. Now, this is something I'm sure you've not heard about actually. Let's see what it is. Okay. I talked about famous brands like Shoppers Stop, Pantaloons. Take an example of Shoppers Stop. They have very famous national and international brands, sub-brands like Allen Solly, Wrangler, W. But they also have their own sub-brands. Their own means their own private label. They actually come up with the design. Like two of their private brands are Hot Curry and Kashish. So when you're taking an example of Kashish, okay, Kashish has designers, but are these designers taking the decision on what need to be sold in the store? No, they're not the people. The job profile that is taking the decision is called fashion buyer. Fashion buyers view or go through the data to find out what sells and what doesn't sell. They research, they go meet designers, they go through fashion shows to understand what is actually going through, what is the fashion trend globally, what are people buying. They also communicate with the sales team to understand what is the local market looks like. Okay, then they coordinate with the fashion designers to get these ideas incorporated and get the best of the product that sells. It's very important to note that it's not only important to design, but it's also very important to sell these designs. So buyers are the people who actually find out what sells and what doesn't sell. Now, their job doesn't end there. They have to communicate with vendors. Or otherwise manufacturers to create these garments. And they also have to make sure these are created at the right time. When I say the right time, say if it's a festive season, Diwali time, okay, Christmas time. So they have a set of garments which are very different from what is being sold throughout the year. So these garments have to come exactly at that point. Okay, not before, not after. So these products need to come. It's their responsibility to make sure these products come at the correct time. Okay. At the same time, they also communicate with the store people to make sure these products, the fashion products, are displayed in the right manner. So you see, this is more like they take the complete ownership of the product. That means what? It's a very powerful job. Fashion buyer in fashion industry is one of the most powerful jobs. So what all are the skills they require? They need to have communication skill. They need to have fashion knowledge. Definitely fashion education is required. They need to have excellent decision making power. They need to take ownership of the product basically, because buyers decide what to sell in the store. Many of the times, buyers work in the head offices of big brands. So buyer is a powerful job, powerful position in fashion career. And this is a job that most of the people can look forward. Okay. Another interesting, visual merchandiser. Visual means sight. Visual merchandisers are people who are responsible for the total look of the store. Okay. Let's again take an example of Shopper Stop. Okay, you might have visited any store, not least Shopper Stop, or any store during the Diwali season. They have elaborate decorations of lights, diyas, many other props which is related to Diwali. When you're actually walking through the store, you have a feel that you're right in the middle of the festival itself. And who creates these looks? These are being created by the visual merchandisers. So what do? They develop flow plans. When I say flow plans, that means how the rack should be arranged, where the garment should be displayed, what is the walking path into it, everything about the store. Okay, store layouts, window displays. Let me give an example of window display. Take a look at this. This is an illustrated or a sketched picture of top shop window. Window means what? Exterior window of the shop. Now the theme they have used here is comic. So they have actually decorated the window with a large comic book, and they have actually styled their mannequins or the body forms or the human forms with comic character attire or dresses. So which gives you instantly that feel of magic, fantasy, and the comic all visual merchandiser. This also, you may be wondering that what is the connection with fashion designer and visual merchandiser? Now, if you see, all of these requires an understanding about color coordination, aesthetics basically, garment property, a little bit of garment understanding on how it should be looked, what looks good together. In simple words, it all requires a study of creativity. And study of creativity definitely is fashion designing. Okay, so visual merchandising is again another important job role. And why are visual merchandising decorating their store or their displays this way? Simple. The whole purpose behind this is they prompt the buyers, or otherwise they prompt customers to have an impulse buy. They prompt the customers to buy the product. So all this is done so that fashion products can be brought at a faster pace. So this also requires a lot of creative flair and eye for trends. We have seen where fashion designers are placed from Hamstech. Let's see what is Hamstech's association with the retail industry. Like fashion designing houses, Hamstech is associated with many famous retail brands. Some of the retail brands we are associated with are Burberry India, US Polo, Diesel, Gas, Shoppers Stop, United Colors of Wellington. Now, another line or a sector of fashion which takes in a lot of design students is fashion export. What is export? Export is any country, say for India, manufactures and sends these products to some other foreign country. That is export. And if a country exports fashion product, it becomes fashion exports. And one of the major job role in fashion export is merchandiser, fashion export merchandiser. Now, let's understand the term of fashion export merchandiser through an example. Say you have a company, export company, fashion export company in Bangalore, who have a stitching unit also. Now, they get an order of 10,000 pieces of white t-shirt from a US-based buyer. Now, when the buyer places the order, they don't place with the owner of the company. They place with the merchandiser of the company. That is the export merchandiser of the company. So, merchandiser takes in the order. After that, he needs to source for the vendors for the white fabric. Remember, it's white t-shirt order. So, he needs to source vendors for the white fabric. He needs to actually get those fabric, buy those fabric, get it stitched in the stitching unit. Remember, this export house has a stitching unit also. But he has to make sure that these stitching is done on time so that they have a timeline. The US buyer have a timeline which is being set. All this have to be done in the timeline. Okay, so this is all being done in the timeline. Meanwhile, when he's doing all these things, he has to be keeping in regular touch with the buyer in the US because you need to keep sending him samples for the approval. So he has to have good coordination with the buyer, with the vendor, with making sure that the products are done at the right time. Okay, along with that, he need to coordinate with the shipping unit, shipping firms to make sure that the products which is being manufactured or being done are being shipped. Okay, with all the specification. So this is exactly what export merchandiser do. This sounds more similar like a management role, right? Management job role. But take a look. The merchandiser is the person who is in touch with the fabric vendor. So when the US buyer keeps an order for the white t-shirt, you need to have an understanding about the fabric. You need to have the understanding of garment technicalities there because there are specifications on which it has to be stitched. So you need to have an understanding of fashion in total, which need to have fashion studies there. So fashion export merchandiser need to have fashion knowledge, sourcing skills, negotiation, costing skills, coordination skills, maintaining reports. It also need to be there actually, and definitely the communication. Now, journalism. Journalism is a profession like any other professions basically. It's a profession of writing. So when I talk about fashion journalism, they report or write about fashion or fashion trends. It can be written in newspaper, magazines, or wherever required. Now these days it's more feasible because you can write it in internet. You can actually write your blogs. You have so many options basically for writing. So you have an interest in fashion, you like fashion trends, you like styling, but at the same time you have strong communication skill. So when I'm talking about communication skill, it is not just oral communication skills, it's also written communication skill. So you have both. You have an interest in fashion, at the same time you have great communication skills. Simple. Fashion journalism is one for you actually. So, fashion journalists need to research on trends. They need to attend fashion shows. They need to interview fashion designers. They need to travel the world to understand what's happening across the world. And then later, take it on a newspaper. Like, for example, Fresh looks for Fab Spring. So, this is actually a trend report which is published in a newspaper to understand what is going to be in style for the next season. So this is exactly what a fashion journalist do. So if you have both, that is fashion sense, technicalities, and eye for detail and trends, at the same time communication skill. There's the feel for you. Now, textile print designer. I have talked about fashion designer, fashion stylist. You may be wondering what is textile print designer. Now, coming from India, all of you may be having a printed kurta, at least a printed dress. If you do not understand what a print is, just an interesting history. It said that in 327 BC, when Alexander the Great invaded India, he recorded of very interesting, colorful printed textiles from India, basically. So we have a history of textile printing. I don't know how many people know about block printing, but block printing is extremely famous from India. Uh, if you see, most of us actually understand Rangoli properly. That is repeat patterns. If you have the ability to make patterns, you understand intricate patterns, you can visualize them. Okay, textile printing is another option which is open for you. Basically, you may think, what, like, you might have seen wallpapers, you might have seen curtains, they're all printed. You have bed sheets, basically, they're all printed, and these print requires creative mind behind it. That's exactly a print designer do. And one brand that uses print very creatively is, I feel, W brand as a kurta comes up with excellent print designs. So there is always an option if you understand this intricate pattern, and how they're all connected, and you can come up with just print, and you're not just interested in the whole garment, but you're interested more on the print, and you understand colors very well actually. And even kids, if you see kids brands, they use a lot of prints on them. So textile designers will always find either freelancing or a full-time job. Finally, finally, academician. I should say fashion is one of the most lucrative design field among all other design fields. There are many students studying for fashion, and as years pass by, there are many more students joining in. That means what? That you need teachers to teach the students about creativity. So you like design, you have passion, you've done your fashion designing, but you're more inclined towards academics, then definitely you can teach fashion. I feel it's also one of the most creative jobs, because when you're actually teaching fashion, you are actually working with young minds, basically. You're guiding them with the process. In short, you're actually building the creativity in the young brands. So you're also helping the nation build with creative minds. So this is also one field that students can go after they finish fashion designing course. So what I would like to say is there are, if I have to really sit and list down as many as, like details in retail and export sector jobs, if fashion designing students can do, they can be, say, another 25, 50 more. But the main ones I have already covered it. What I want to say is fashion as a complete field has many job opportunities or career opportunities. Some other job opportunities which is there in export and retail sector are garment technologies, sampling coordinator, then again store merchandiser, many more, basically many more. So what I want to say is this is a very lucrative field, this is a very creative field, and job opportunities are immense. Yeah. So thank you for watching the video, and it's time for the questions, if any.